Let me tell you a nice bit of dream I had. So I was laying in bed with the love of my life, me and her together, and I decided to sit in between her legs, just for comfort reasons. And she decided to wrap her legs right around my. You know what? I'm not gonna continue that any further because I know there's some people that I know actually watch this channel, and if you're one of those, please don't take my word for serious. I'm hoping, and don't put on a bad word for me. Thank you very much. But either way, hello and welcome. Tools in Payday 3 are a very interesting feature. They're well executed, but they're not really that perfect. Let's put it that way. They're an interesting aspect for Payday 3, but it's one of those things where you don't really use a lot, despite being very good. Now, why is this? Well, it has to do with a couple of reasons. For one, it can be a little bit janky at certain times for both loud and stealth. Actually, it's not really that bad on stealth, but when it comes to loud, it is a little bit annoying to use because the distance at which you're able to put your tools is like what, 1-2 meters, something like that. And when it comes to like loud situations and you want to throw something like an infrasonic mine on a whole groups of enemies, it can be a little bit weird. It's like you could be like a meter away or like 3 meters away, and you're trying desperately to put the mine down, but the game's like, nah, your arm cannot reach that far, or it's just like, nah, you're too far to place one down. So it can be a little bit janky. But are the tools themselves any good? Yes, some are and some aren't. Depends on, your skill and as well as your build and etc. So without wasting any more time, I'm gonna go through every single tool and how they work and if they're good without and with skills together. So without wasting any time, let's get into it, starting off with the ECM Jammer. The ECM Jammer is a mixed bag because it is both the most useless tool in the game, and it's one of the most useful ones. Useless because without any skills, it is by far the worst tool that you can actually bring on the game because it has no function on loud as far as I'm aware, and as well as it's entirely useless on stealth because what it essentially does is it slows down the time it takes for a pager to or it takes time for the control to call the pager, and it also reduces the time it takes for a pager to remain uncalled or unanswered. It also reduces the time it takes for a camera to notice something, and as well as cops and civilians calling officers or the other guards, and etc. etc. It just pretty much slows down, like, calling stuff. But on loud, it is entirely useless. And you might think, well, slowing down cameras is pretty nice, what's the big deal? Well, considering the fact that the hacker skill exists, like ECM jammers are just entirely useless unless you have the scrambler skill, which is like a necessary item you need to bring when it comes to using ECM jammers. Because on stealth, with the skill of like a cam distortion, it has the ability to actually disable cameras if you place it right next to them. And it also has the ability to find where techies are, snipers are, FBI vans, and as well as stagger enemies with the entirety of the scrambler skill tree. Now, the stunning aspect is a very interesting one because it only works whenever you have rush and shoot enemies while the ECM jammer is active. The perfect use I can see for the ECM jammer to be used on loud is the fact that if you're in a tight area where you can barely get out, put down an ECM jammer and activate it and just tap at every single enemy you see. Don't kill them, just simply tap at them just so you can get out of there easily. And there's another skill that goes really well with the ECM jammer. That would be the tactician skill, the one where it focuses on staggering enemies, specifically coup de grace, and the other one that increases the stun effect on enemies by 20%, or makes it where it lasts longer. So yeah, ECM jammers are very good tools, both loud and stealth if you have the skills, but without skills it's entirely useless. Being able to find techies is very good because sometimes techies hide on very hard places to find, or places you would never expect them to be at. And it also helps you finding FBI vans, and it's also the only tool in Payday 3 that is able to be refilled, which is weird, but either way I'm not going to talk about it. Next up on the list we have is the motion sensor. The motion sensor is a good item, but it's not great. That's the problem. My main grudge I have with the motion sensor is the fact that it only has a limited use before it's completely gone. If it had a lengthy cooldown, then I think it would have been a really good item, perhaps even better than the motion sensor. But the problem is, it is only able to scan upwards of 15 enemies before it literally goes away. For stealth, it can be fine, I guess, if you're placing it on areas where guards are roaming around a lot, but on loud it can be really good if you mainly place it on areas where cops usually spawn, or common cop spawning areas. And it's good, but like, the problem is, once it's scanned 15 enemies, it's just done. Like, there's no indication that it's about to turn off, there is no indication of how many times it can scan, like, there's nothing. You just kind of have to take a guess and say, like, is it scanning enemies or not? Or is it done or not? Like, you have to sort of sit back and think, like, is it any done? And it can be useful on heists that are like more short term, like Road Rage, Touch the Sky, and so on. But on longer heists like Golden Shark, First World Bank, and as well as Fear and Greed, it's going to die out really quick because of how much cost it spawns and how long the heist is. So yeah, with skills it can be good, like Strategist and as well as Scrambler. You know, those skills, like it can be useful. But the thing is, once it's out, it's just kind of useless. So if it had a link, if it had a cooldown, then yeah, it would have been really good. But the thing is, it doesn't. So yeah, that's the sad part. So next up we have on the list is the camera, or the micro camera. The micro camera is a weird one because it's a bit janky to use, but it can be useful at certain times. The main use I can think of for the micro camera is for two reasons on loud, and I'll get into stuff in a little bit. It can be used for like finding where the techie is, and as well as checking out a common area where cops spawn a lot. Again, the motion sensor does that, but consider the fact that the micro camera can be used infinitely, I don't think there's much needs to be said because with the micro camera, if you place it on areas where techies spawn a lot or chill in a lot, then it will give you a better understanding on where to check, so you don't have to spend time running around the map without, like, you know, getting bored or just, like, you know, getting frustrated where the fuck she is. Take example being on Syntax Error. Placing on certain areas where she chills in, it gives you a better understanding of where she is and where she's not. Since because you have two, you already have two spots you don't need to check or need to spend time running towards to. It's like, oh, she's not there, then that means she could be here. So it just reduces the amount of time it takes for you to just run around. And another thing it can be good is, like I said, checking like other areas that you normally wouldn't check, or to see if it's full of cops. If it's not full of cops, then why bother checking, if that makes sense. The only problem I can see is that it takes a little bit of time to like sort of whip it out, and the problem is that it covers your entire screen. If I had to rework it in a way, it would make it where like instead of covering your whole entire screen, instead like your phone would actually showcase it, and it would be a lot more quicker. So not only you can like see what's in front of you, but you can also see like what's on the phone. So you don't have to worry about, you know, getting overwhelmed or having a cloaker literally just fucking looking at you and about to beat your ass before you. It's like FNAF all over again, for fuck's sakes. But hey. With skills, there's not much you can do. Strategies can work, but considering how slow it is to like mark enemies, it's not really good. You can like bring in an extra micro camera if you want to, like, you know, be like on a watch guard or some shit, but it's not really that good considering like the infrasonic mine is existing as well as the laser chip. But it is a fine item. It's not the worst, but it can be useful on certain areas. For stealth, it can only be used for seeing where the lead guard is, and that's it, because you can stick the micro camera on people, and if you stick it onto the lead guard, you can have infinite information on the lead guard itself. Now you might sit back and think, well, why can't you just stick the motion sensor on the lead guard? Isn't that better? Technically it is better, but consider the fact that there's only like limited amount of use for the micro or the motion sensor. The micro camera is literally just better than the motion sensor because you get infinite information. Place it on guards and as well as civilians, and you get a better understanding of where they are, so you don't have to like, you know, overexpose yourself and see who's out in the hallway or in a room. So yeah, it can be useful, but it's not like really the best, honestly. So yeah. Next up we have on the list is the Infrasonic Mine. The Infrasonic Mine is probably by far one of the best tools in Payday 3 without any skills or any sort of like traits, to say at least, because for one you get 5 of them, which is absurd, and it's so good. Like, it's really damn good. For stealth it's useless because using it on a guard, it causes them to sort of either go aggressive on you and try to tie you up, or it causes them to call in a search, which is something you don't want. But if the search is already happening, then I guess it can be used to stop a guard. But the thing is, if there's a civilian close by, then they will be affected as well and start to run away and call the cops. So, unless you're playing a heist that has barely any civilians and you're on search, it can be useful to stun them and try to like maneuver around, but it's not really that good. Just use an ECM jammer for fuck's sakes, please. But for loud, it is incredible because it's literally just a pocket flashbang. Drop it on the floor or on common areas where cops go through a lot and just stagger them. Strategic skills go extremely well with this, like the one that makes the stun last longer, and as well as coup de grace. It is really good because being able to instantly stun enemies that are coming through corridors can be very useful at times, even on heists that have a lot of spawn rates. And consider the fact that you don't need any good skills to make it effective, it just makes this a whole lot better. And grabbing skills that gives you additional mines can be very useful, because you go from having 5 of them to instantly to 8, which is fucking absurd, but it's incredible. So yeah, the Infrasonic mine is an incredible tool when it comes to loud, but on stealth it's entirely useless, which is the only complaint I can say. The final one we have on the list is the Trip Laser, and it's too overpowered, let's put it that way. Considering the fact that you get infinite information and as well as infinite scanning, I don't think much needs to be said. Sure, you can only carry one with you, but that one that you're carrying in your pocket can be the difference between having your ass overwhelmed and knowing, like, when to protect yourself, because, for one, you know when they're coming, and two, it has literally infinite uses, so you know when they're going to be coming. You don't have to like ask yourself, is the scanning done, is it like broken or whatever. No, you get infinite information, which is really good. And combining skills like assassin, fortitude, and everything else that I include, and as well as scrambler, this thing is just amazing. Even with strategist, this thing is an absolute perfect item, because for one, you're able to get infinite information, like I said earlier. But to consider the fact that Strategist works against every enemy, it literally makes the game a bit too easy, sure, but like, it's really damn useful. Even if you don't have Strategist, Tactician, or even Fortitude and Assassin, it's still an incredible item. For stealth, it is fine, but ECM exists, so why bother using it? The thing is, there's this weird trend where the other tools that Payday 3 has is good, but the ACM jammer literally just says, fuck you, you don't get to do your job better than mine, so there's really no point of running the other tools in stealth besides the ACM jammer. But for loud, all of them are really good. Infrasonic is perfect for stunning enemies, motion, or the micro camera is perfect for finding techies and as well as, you know, checking out if an area is overwhelmed with cops. Motion sensors are fine for short-term heist and whatever, and as well as trip lasers are incredible just in general. Like, there's a lot of options for you to mess around with, and they're very flexible, let's put it that way. So yeah, I hope I've explained the tools in a great detail. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to go and probably take the best nap of my life, because I am old and I'm about to turn 50 years old in a couple of months. So, if you excuse me, I will see each and every one of you next time. Take care of yourselves, treat each other with respect, do not be an asshole to one another, show some kindness to one another, and I will see each and every one of you next time. Now, get out.